Morning, thanks for watching. Just wanted to do some education on what it means that the Social Workers Act will be repealed and that regulation of social work will be coming under the Regulated Health Professions Act and what this represents for you in particular, but also for the profession of social work and decisions that will need to be made. So, as many as you heard, the Social Worker Act is in the process of being repealed. And our profession will now operate under the governance framework of the Regulated Health Professions Act. It's a significant shift. While we are disappointed that the government did not collaborate with us to create a framework tailored to the unique realities of social workers and the people that we serve, we remain steadfast in our commitment to the interest of the public and reducing their harm in the delivery of social work services across the board. It is an ideological shift, which we'll talk about as well. Our model for regulation is one that was dated in terms of where modern regulation has gone, but that shift isn't marked by overall better outcomes or performance. It's shifted by an ideological framing in which the role of professions and regulation are aimed to serve business and efficiency issues rather than uphold human rights and protection of the public. Let me unpack that a little bit more. Before we go into anything, let's start with the immediate changes that you might feel. The most notable impact will likely be related to fees and costs. Under the RHPA, regulatory bodies faced increased reporting requirements, including standardized performance measures, audits, and more robust compliance processes, such as practice audits, fitness practice committees. These changes will require database revisions, likely additional staffing, and other resources to meet these responsibilities, not to mention the increased legal fees of building all these new policies and procedures. As a result, there will be an increase in cost, which will ultimately be reflected in registrant fees sooner rather than later. However, it's important to note that your title, scope of practice, code of ethics, and standards of practice remain unchanged. The code of ethics we launched in 2026 continues to guide us, emphasizing that social workers must advocate at structural, community, and individual levels, and this commitment to advocacy is central to our profession and will not waver under the RHPA. The Code of Ethics makes it clear that social workers are not neutral actors. We are called to work in solidarity with the people we serve, addressing their immediate needs while also advocating for structural change. This principle remains at the heart of our profession, even as we transition to a new regulatory framework. Self-regulation will also remain a cornerstone of our profession. While the RHPA introduces greater government oversight and public involvement, it will also allow for self-regulation, a principle we have always upheld and is central to any profession. In terms of some of those reporting requirements, the college has already been building towards these practices and learning and growing and are in good shape to meet many of these demands. In fact, we were one of the first regulatory bodies in this province to voluntarily assess ourselves against the standards of good regulation, in which we have made adjustments and shifted, and we continue to be in good shape in terms of our overall functioning and programming to meet these demands. There are opportunities as well under the RHPA. It does change the format of where scopes lie. Changing them from legislation to regulation allows us to be more nimble in terms of changing or updating scopes. We will likely have the opportunity to advance the scope in clinical practice as well as a paraprofessional role as we transition under the RHPA. What this can mean, again, is that as many of you may have been involved in the developing of our current clinical scope, we'll be able to solidify this in our regulations and look at formalizing the clinical role that many social workers are already performing, ensuring their expertise is fully recognized and utilized within the healthcare system. A clinical scope of practice will enhance credibility in interdisciplinary teams and improve access to mental health and social services for the public. Additionally, there is space under the RHPA framework to create a paraprofessional role within social work. This could be transformative in areas of service delivery, particularly in rural and underserved areas. Paraprofessionals could take on specific tasks and responsibilities, freeing registered social workers to focus on more complex case and interventions. Opportunities in Social Development has already been experimenting with a paraprofessional role, and putting regulation around it will certainly provide clarity in scopes and safeguard the role of social work and where the role of a paraprofessional begins. This approach addresses systemic barriers such as higher workloads, limited funding, and structural inequities while maintaining standards. These advancements align with the broader goals of our Safer Social Work framework, which emphasizes adapting to emerging challenges and optimizing for how we can better serve the public's interest. There are larger risks here as well. While we do welcome the opportunity to collaborate with government on social work regulation under the RHPA, and again, continue to align with the RHPA's prime objectives of protecting the public from harm and serving and promoting the public interest, we will continue to look at how we do that and where we place ourselves. Our approach is rooted in right touch regulation and advocacy, ensuring public safety while advancing equity, justice, and accountability. To support this, our Safer Social Work framework focuses on, again, overall adaptability, designing responsive solutions to the needs of the folks that we serve, and exploring creative, effective alternatives that keep public safety front and center without stifling innovation. The harm in the provisions of social work services, as we know, is predominantly caused by systemic issues: heavy workloads, underfunding, moral distress, the legacy of residential schools, the continuation of colonization, as well as anti-Black racism. And within that is where the risks lie. So those we serve will not be safe unless we can tackle those structural issues. And we aim to continue to tackle those structural challenges through strong advocacy, pointing to systemic change, to identify, again, how social workers can deliver better, ethical, and effective care. Our strategy has evolved, and we continue to push for policies that address inequity and uphold social justice, and for a robust social safety net that provides resources to people. Strategy is grounding in findings of pivotal inquiries, such as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the National Inquiry into Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women, as well as reports on child welfare, mental health and addictions, and overall public safety. These documents guide our commitment to be trauma-informed, culturally safe, and community-centered practice. Advocacy is not optional when you read these reports. Again, all of these reports speak to the structural challenges. You cannot say that you are doing reconciliation without dealing with the structures. You cannot engage in reparations without dealing with the structures. So we aim to protect the people from harm by continuing to advocate for system reform and structural change. However, there is a large threat to the college for continuing in that activity, and that's the threat of authoritarianism. And I don't mean to be an alarmist. We have to be able to place any legislation that is moving forward or any changes in the context of the current world. We must acknowledge these challenges. The RHPA grants sweeping powers to the Minister of Health, including the ability to fire a board, appoint a new registrar, order audits, and demand consultations. While these powers are intended to serve the public interest, they raise significant concerns about potential misuse, particularly under future governments. Globally, we are witnessing the rise of authoritarianism, the dismantling of democratic institutions, and the erosion of public trust in governance. Many believe Canada is immune to those trends, but this is a dangerous assumption. The RHPA is a clear example of how authoritarianism begins and can manifest itself. The real danger doesn't lie with this current government, but with future governments. Imagine a figure like Robert Kennedy Jr. with his history of vaccine denialism and catering to corporate interest in charge of health policy in Nova Scotia. Under the RHPA, such a person could intervene in any profession, reshaping regulatory bodies to align with their agenda. This is not a hypothetical. In the US, politicization of public health has led to the rejection of science-based decision-making with devastating consequences. The RHPA opens the door for similar risks here, undermining professional autonomy and public trust across the board. We have to remain vigilant to this and recognize that this is a significant risk to the college and whatever regulatory body it forms moving forward. So what does this mean? And where are we going to land? Well, there'll be lots of conversations and consultations, and we'll inform you as changes happen and where we're thinking and engage you in that decision-making process along the way. But adapting to the RHPA will need significant resources, including legal fees, rebranding, new systems to meet regulatory requirements. There will be costs, which will impact fees, and we believe that they'll likely be necessary to be a strong and effective regulator and meet the demands of the Regulated Health Profession Act. Well, advocacy is central to social work within our ethics, within our profession. The new regulatory body for social work is intending to use advocacy as a tool to protect and serve the public interest. However, the government expects social workers to establish a separate association for advocacy in its interest, the profession's interest. This approach has limitations. One, it would add more costs and likely have a third of the membership because it's voluntary, and it would be likely a weak voice overall because it wouldn't have as many members attached to it, as much money behind it, and likely it would cater to the needs of private practitioners who would require a professional association to get discounts on insurance, supports, community practice, all of those things. We may propose creating a Nova Scotia chapter of the Canadian Association of Social Workers, leveraging existing structures to maintain a strong political voice. But these are decisions that are going to be up to you. What do you want? What kind of political voice do you need to remain strong? The challenge is that although the regulatory body is committed to continuing to advocate in the public interest, poses significant risks, and we need to be able to manage those risks accordingly and together. So major conversations will happen around that. We need to continue to remain vigilant, monitor the ministerial powers, and advocate for professional autonomy and public trust in the interest of those that we serve. Our road ahead is there's going to be time. The government has indicated they would like to start talking about profession-specific regulations in early 2027. But we don't have that much time either. So we need to continue to figure out what we are going to do and how we are going to respond. I hope this was helpful just in terms of allowing, giving some guidance as to where we are and our thoughts at this point in time. And we'll continue to engage and keep people informed. If anyone has any questions or concerns about this presentation, you can find my email online, and I'm happy to engage in a conversation. Thank you.